Good morning, Tuesday in the third week of Lent. Today we're presented another parable about the kingdom. The kingdom is the one thing Jesus seems to talk about the most, especially in those synoptic gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Many parables and teachings about the kingdom. So today we're given a parable about the art and practice of forgiveness. It begins with Peter's question of how many times should he forgive his brother? And he says 7 times, and then as usual, Jesus takes it to another level, 70 times 7 or 77 times. Either way, just a whole new degree of perfection. Maybe we can say God's divine perfection, which is the thing we seem to underestimate the most, the holiness of God. We say God is holy, but do we really know and appreciate what that really means? All sin is a offense or something contrary to the holiness of God. And sure, there are various degrees of sins. There's some are more egregious than others, but all sin is robbing ourselves of God's holiness. It's contrary to the very nature of who God is. And so, with that, our sins are forgiven by God through just a pure gift of God. It's not anything that we've earned or accomplished. God has made us holy by forgiving our sins because he chose to do so, by his own free will and his own desire. You can say that forgiveness and mercy is part of the holiness of God. It's what separates him from everything else in all creation. We're always kind of like a vengeful people seeking justice, giving each his due, given to what each deserves. But that doesn't seem to be part of who God is. So Jesus gives this great parable of a servant who owed a debt so large that it would take, I think the numbers, if you add up the numbers, it would have been like 400 to 700 years, something like that. Something extraordinarily large where it is literally impossible for this person to ever repay back the king. Again, God's free will, his gift, his mercy, what brings us into relationship with him is his gift. And it's because God is kind and patient with us. So if we want to live in this holiness of God, live in the kingdom, live in God's divine life, forgiveness is an absolute essential component of that life, as Jesus explains. And then continues with the parable where that servant who had the large debt forgiven finds another servant and he begins to choke him, even though that other servant owed that servant a very small amount, something that could be repaid. It would just take time. And yet just choking him out throws him into prison. And again, as Jesus says, this is something that's contrary. Because once the king hears about it, he throws that servant into prison. And again, what was it? Because he couldn't forgive. And I think when you hold on to grudges, again, something I think is even contrary to the human heart, which would make sense considering we're made in God's image and likeness, that holding grudges and vengefulness is contrary to who we are. We're not built that way. We're meant to let it go and to live freely. If we don't forgive, then we're kind of locked up in our own little prisons of hatred, and I think we can all experience in that. Whenever we're so upset with someone, they seem to really occupy our minds. They occupy our space and our thoughts. And when we can't just live life, we can't enjoy it, we can't appreciate it, because we're so imprisoned to just the hate and vengefulness of others. Jesus gives the liberty to that. He gives us the freedom, the key. It's his life, it's holiness, which is one of bestowing mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. It's the way of the kingdom. May God bless you.